Michael, let's talk about Gordon Sondland. This is Trump's own advisor who's going to be testifying today. He was going to last week. It got blocked just moments ago as he was entering the building. Our own Jeff Bennett said, "Are you here to try to salvage your reputation?" He said, "I've got nothing to salvage."
Well, I think, Stephanie, you put it exactly right. This is about our democratic institutions. This is about our democracy. And the impeachment inquiry that is ongoing right now is a test for our democracy. And we see a parade of witnesses coming through before Congress right now, and they all have decisions to make. And Mr. Sondland has a decision to make today. He has a decision to make about whether or not he is going to do what's right. He is going to admit what is plain as day for everyone to see in those text messages, what he was a part of, the corruption that he was a part of, or whether or not he's going to try to lie for the president and try to protect him. We've seen a number of witnesses already come forward, like Fiona Hill and others, Ambassador Yovanovitch, who are trying to stand up for not just the State Department, for, again, our democracy and for doing what's right in talking to Congress. And so Ambassador Sondland has a real challenge today, and I hope very much that he does what's right.
Ashley, Fiona Hill actually, in her testimony earlier this week, it was reported that she said Sondland was so unprepared for his job that he was a potential national security risk. Does his testimony today shine a light on exactly who, what, and why we choose private individuals and big donors for posts that could truly impact foreign policy?
Well, first, we don't know exactly what he's going to say today, although it's been reported bits and pieces what we think he plans to say. But yes, I mean, one thing that was interesting about Fiona Hill's testimony was that she sort of made a distinction and said it wasn't necessarily even that he was malicious or intentionally behaving in a problematic way, as much as what you said. He was ill-prepared. He was in over his head. He was basically a West Coast hotelier who was originally a Jeb Bush donor and had long wanted to be an ambassador. That was one of his key goals, kind of to be a player and in the mix. He'd switched to Trump. Trump had appointed him to the EU. Ukraine was not in his portfolio, but you have someone who now wants to please his benefactor. That's how this dynamic works with some of these appointmentships of people who are not in the foreign policy realm or not in the State Department, have not been career public servants. He wants to please his benefactor. The president tasks him with Ukraine, which is not just out of his actual portfolio of the European Union, but definitely out of the areas of which he's studied and is prepared to deal with. And you see someone, it seems like, who, whether he intended to or not, got in way, way over his head.
Yes, the president is Gordon Sondland's benefactor, or has been for the last 2 years. But your reputation is for life. Michael, on Wednesday, Mike Pompeo's former aide, Mike McKinley, who has had a diplomatic role in our government for 37 years. He testified that he quit last week because he was so upset about the way ambassadors were being used to advance the president's own agenda. Are you surprised that so many diplomats and officials are now stepping down and saying this was wrong? Because for the last 2.5 years, we've been saying, when are people going to step out and step down and leave? And it's happening now for the first time in a big way.
No, Stephanie, I'm not surprised. Career diplomats like Ambassador Yovanovitch, like Ambassador McKinley, they are the finest of the finest. These people, again, dedicate their lives, decades, 37 years in Ambassador McKinley's case, to serving our country, moving them and their families all around the world every couple of years to advance the interests of the American people. And I think what's important to remember about Ambassador McKinley here is that he is an example of the career diplomat and what they try to do for this country, right? He served for 37 years. Pompeo asks him, comes in as Secretary of State, asks him to be his senior advisor. People in the department have already been skeptical about this administration under Rex Tillerson, but Ambassador McKinley agrees to do it, comes on board and works for Pompeo, flies around the world with him, advises him on everything, and he's trying to do what's right for his country. But after the events of Ukraine in this past summer and spring with Ambassador Yovanovitch and the shadow foreign policy the president was trying to conduct, Ambassador McKinley clearly said, enough is enough. I can't do this anymore. And so this was someone who was at Pompeo's side for the last while here and can speak clearly to a lot of what's going on and has just had enough.
But Ashley, this enough is enough is different from the people who we've seen leave this administration, whether you're talking Gary Cohn, Dina Powell, Rex Tillerson, lots of people have left the administration, and maybe privately they've said enough is enough, but they've been very tight-lipped beyond that. Do you see a clear difference this time?
Yes and no. I mean, what you're seeing here is you're seeing career civil servants whose loyalty is to the institution, to democracy, coming forward and telling and basically raising alarms. And they're doing so, they're defying the White House. They're doing so under the cover of subpoenas. But you get the sense that all of these people want to be there under that, behind those closed doors, explaining to lawmakers and investigators just what they think went wrong and just how problematic it is. It's an interesting question why some of those other people you named who left the White House and may have been quite unhappy and shared that privately did not come forward publicly. Some of them occupy different spaces. They've been in and out of government. They have a second act in mind. They perhaps, some of them had a more personal relationship with the president working in the West Wing. But it's worth noting there was a lot of frustration that a number of people have left the West Wing and done so quietly. And what you're seeing here, I think, is people who truly deeply believe that something is rotten and something is wrong, and they have a duty to the institution, to democracy, to the Constitution, to come forth and share that. And there does seem to be momentum picking up now that we were not seeing, say, just a year ago.
Eddie, we saw a lot of the president yesterday. I want to share a bit of what he had to say. Take a look.
Our country is looking into the corruption of the 2016 election. It was a corrupt election, whether it's Comey or McCabe or Strzok or his lover, Lisa Page, the two great lovers. There was a lot of corruption. Maybe it goes right up to President Obama. I happen to think it does.
What is he talking about? And I am not speaking about the extent to which Peter Strzok or anyone else is a great lover. But what is the president talking about here?
That's nonsense. Donnie Deutsch, I can't believe I'm quoting Donnie here, but Donnie...
He's an expert in great lovers, yes, Donnie Deutsch. Yes.
But Donnie talks about this strategy. He calls it CAP. You confuse, you admit, and then you project. This is part of the confusion.
I cannot believe you're quoting Donnie.
I can't, but it seems to me to be right.
It is.
Because it doesn't make any sense. So part of this is, we know that what he has been trying to do is delegitimize the Mueller. He tried to delegitimize the Mueller investigation by confusing everything, by throwing spaghetti on the wall. And so now he's bringing that back in. And so what's so fascinating about it, Stephanie, is that he is the one who's corrupt. And he's projecting it. He is the one who's corrupt. It's corruption and incompetence, and people are having to make decisions. Folks are having to make decisions because they're lawyering up. Folks are having to make decisions whether or not they're going to be patriots. Folks are having to make decisions whether or not they're going to act in their self-interest. The walls are coming down, and they know that this guy is not going to protect them. So I think we're going to see a flood of what we're experiencing this week over the next couple of weeks.
A flood may be coming.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.